All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Cal, and thank you for being here to watch my presentation version of the final essay that I did for the ARB 250. The title of my talk is Honor, Shame, and Screens. I'm going to dive into how some of the cultural values that I found can affect digital privacies for some of the most vulnerable groups, like women, children, and the LGBTQ communities in the Middle East. It's a pretty complex topic, I would say, but I'm really excited to share what I found. I picked this topic because it's really fascinating how people can connect to each other with just a few clicks, right? But while exploring this, I realized that the culture context really changes by how people use technology, right? Sometimes it's a good thing, but a lot of times it can work against them. And as I dug deeper and deeper into this idea of honor and shame in the Middle East society, my view of digital life really changed. To make things easier, let's do this. Imagine that you take a selfie while hanging out with your friends or your family. You post it online, you feeling great about it, but then out of nowhere, strangers and even family members you didn't tag online suddenly started to judge you because of that photo and what that photo says about your honor, about your family reputation, and how you were raised. Now, this is the reality of millions of people in the Middle East. The concept of honor and shame holds so much power to the point that they can lead to serious consequences, especially in the digital world where information can spread so quickly. So, when someone shares something online, it can kick off a flood of scrutiny. For women, their online presence can be double-edged sword. I mean, it might offer connections, but at the same time, it exposes them to public judgment and backlashes. For the LGBTQ communities also, it's even riskier. In many parts of the Middle East, just being yourself online can lead to really some serious social repercussions or exclusion or even worse. So, it's really important to understand that the cultural stories behind these experiences can shape individual lives, and more importantly, it also influences broader social norms and behaviors. It's a tricky balance between embracing technology and keeping the vulnerable people safe from some real impacts of cultural expectations. I'm really excited to explore these issues more today and hopefully shine a light on how we can be more aware of the cultural implications in our digital interactions. So, to really understand how people interact in many Middle Eastern societies, it is really important to look at the intertwined ideas of honor and shame. I mean, unlike the West, where honor is often about personal pride or how people perceive their own success, in the Middle Eastern culture, honor is more of a group thing that connects closely to family and communities. In these societies, honor is tied to social relationships and the expectations that comes with them. So, what one family member does can affect the whole family reputations. If someone does something seen as dishonorable, like acting immorally or disrespecting cultural norms, it might affect them individually. But it also brings shame to their whole family. This shared sense of honor and shame creates a strong responsibility among family members, and it really affects how they behave and make decisions. So once you understand this perspective, it's going to be easier for us to see why interactions online in the Middle East can be a little different from what we might expect. Because in digital spaces where people can be anonymous and feel more distance, right? But the concept of honor and shame can show up in a very expected way, I would say, in a sense of how it impacts people communications and interactions. What really surprised me here is how technology hasn't made these traditions' ideas of honor and shame any weaker. In fact, it made them even stronger, though. So, just thinking of it this way, with smartphones being everywhere, so anything we capture can go viral and stick around forever, right? That means personal slip-ups, which used to stay private, can now blow up on social media and become totally public. In cultures where honor is super important, like in many parts of the Middle East, this is a big deal. One small mistake can get recorded, shared, and have huge consequences. I mean, not just for the individual, but for the whole family and communities. The pressure here is really intense since reputation and family honor are closely linked and tied together. So, with technology and tradition mixing like this, I think it's really important than ever to be careful and be aware of how these personal actions can be seen in the Middle East. In many places across the Middle Eastern countries, women often carry the biggest burdens. They deal with lots of social pressures, the risk of serious consequences. I mean, just sharing a picture or posting something on social media can really put them at risk of things with blackmail, harsh criticism, or even physical danger. Because of this, many women decide to skip social media entirely. And for those who do join in, they often keep their profiles super private to feel safer. Some of them, they share parts of their faces or use filters to hide them. And others just post totally fake images to stay hidden. Now, I'm not talking here about following rules of being modest or what society expects. This is more about finding a way to survive in this risky environment. Their need for safety kind of shifts how they act online, which forces them to change how they express themselves normally and present who they are. Children also grow up tons of pressure from social media that really affects how they grow up. A lot of these young people, they realize early on in their lives that posts can cause some major issues for their families, which it kind of puts a lot of pressure on them. And this kind of pressure they shouldn't have to carry at their age. So, because of this, many teens chose not to share any of their political views or personal thoughts, and they feel like they're always being watched. This fear is what really makes them hold back, which stops them from expressing themselves altogether. Just thinking about being 15 and you're already feeling like you should bottle up all your thoughts and feelings, always worried about everything you say might impact your life and the lives of the people you care about. Now, this kind of pressure can really shape how they see themselves and how they interact with the world around them. With the situation of the LGBTQ people in the Middle East, they really have it tough, and it's quite worrying, to be honest. For a lot of people in this community, their online lives can be really dangerous because just one screenshot of a careless message or even a normal chat on dating app can turn this into a weapon against them. Sadly, they're constantly at risk from strangers and the government, as well as from people close to them like friends, neighbors, even family. They just might get exposed at any given time. In this kind of environment, I would see technology, which is supposed to be a way to connect and express themselves, but in this context, it ends up being a big risk against them. Also, even social media and dating apps, which are supposed to be a helpful platforms to build relationships and communities, it can accidentally become tools for spying and harassment. This constant fear of being outed and targeted creates this really stressful mindset that forces them to kind of navigate a tricky online world where their safety is always at stake. The harsh truth for many is that the internet isn't really a safe place anymore, especially in the Middle Eastern countries. It feels more like a battleground where almost every interaction could possibly lead to some serious consequences. Now, the government here have also a pretty big role when it comes to digital observations, and they often justify their surveillances by saying it's a necessary way to protect culture values and keep society morale in check. Now, what this really means to a lot of people is that their cultural identification means a lot to them, and because of this, many Middle Easterns are okay with even support these monitoring efforts, and they see it as a normal way to keep order and protect cultural integrity. This whole situation raises some really important questions about how we can find the right balance between individual privacies and the need for security and the cultural preservation for them. This is where having a global view becomes really important. A lot of digital rights solutions from Western countries tend to see privacy as a personal issue, right? But that doesn't really goes along with how things work in the Middle East. The privacy in the Middle East is pretty much community concerns because in this part of the world, one person's mistake can impact the whole community, like family, friends, and their social groups. So when we think about privacy, it's really important to consider how deeply connected people are in these societies. I really hope that when we try to understand these differences, that some of us can come up with ideas to create some of these digital rights solutions that truly fit with the values and the realities of the Middle Eastern world. So far, I feel like this course has opened my eyes into how much culture and technology are super connected in our daily lives. I mean, they're pretty much tangled, right? And they really influence each other. Also, the fact that their cultural values like honor and shame, they haven't just disappeared because of all the tech advancements we see. It's rather, I would say, changed and it found new ways to show up here and there. And as we engage in our online interactions and use social media, these kind of culture aspects would really still continue on to shape how we act and what's considered normal. It really shows that our our online lives are deeply influenced by the stories and the all the traditions that we bring along, which is very interesting. My biggest personal takeaway from all of this is that I honestly feel grateful for the privilege that I have while growing up. I mean, I could express anything freely. I don't have to worry about family's reputations or any legal issues if I post something online. And this kind of freedom really helped me figure out about myself and how do I connect with others without any hesitations. But now I've come to see that a lot of people across the world, they don't have that same privilege. For them, the fear of backlash can really hold them back and limit their ability to speak up. Just doing this research has really opened my eyes into these differences, and it made me feel more empathic, I would say. I see it as a stronger reminder of the different realities that people have, and it did inspire me to be more aware and more supportive to those people who go against these kind of struggles. So if I had to say one message to end this presentation with is that technology might be a global culture, but privacy is never a one size fits everyone because people's digital choices are kind of made by their culture, their religion, their fears, even their families, and by who they are. And I believe that the more we understand that, the more our digital rights decisions becomes much more humane, I would say, and possibly helpful to a much more diverse spectrum of people around the world. All right, so I just want to take a moment and give a shout out to Professor Umar and all of you guys. I mean, seriously, this class has been such an interesting experience, and it's just the way we had guest speakers, and we were encouraged to share what we have, our thoughts, our comments, all the stories. It made things such I would say, engaging. I've gained so much knowledge here and there, and honestly, I've also made some really good friends here. So I wish everyone a peaceful and fun break. All right, peace.